Gentlemen, welcome back to MGTOW Money. Today's topic, the story of the female Steve Jobs. Before we get to that, thank you, as always, to the ongoing investment support from the Patreon investors in this channel, the members of the MGTOW Money Army. Andy, Jim, welcome to the fold, men. Welcome to the Money MGTOW Army. Gentlemen, see today's video description. Consider becoming a Patreon investor in this channel because you know it's important. Let's get on to today's topic, the story of the female Steve Jobs. Look very closely today at the picture of the blonde woman that you're going to be seeing today. No, this is not some sort of porn star. This woman's name is Elizabeth Holmes. Elizabeth Holmes was the CEO and founder of a company called Theranos. Theranos was a quote-unquote revolutionary Silicon Valley company. They had huge mega investors, men. Mega investors being like Rupert Murdoch, you've probably heard of him. Larry Ellison, multi-billionaire who started Oracle Software. Defense Secretary James Mattis, who's the defense secretary today, sat on their board of directors. Needless to say, this was a major player in the Silicon Valley space, had raised at least $700 million in various venture capital, private money, etc. They were a private company, by the way. Well. A couple of years ago, I got wind of this only because the Wall Street Journal ran an article discussing some concerns about some of the work that they were doing at their company and their products, etc. And so I was sort of off and on in following it. And I was also thought, how interesting. I mean, this woman starts this thing from nothing. And by the way, she at one point had a net worth of $4.5 billion. Yes, her value, the money evidently that she had in stock in the company, etc., was up to $4.5 billion. Well, surprise, surprise, just a couple of days ago, the Securities Exchange Commission, which regulates various offerings in terms of investment offerings, at least here in the United States, came out and has declared, and I'm quoting the, again, United States Securities Exchange Commission regarding Theranos, quote, an elaborate years-long fraud. Did you hear me clearly? A fraud. This woman had been operating a fraud for years. Couple of examples that I've read about. She had fake demonstrations of some of her equipment. And by the way, the equipment was going to be used for the idea of blood testing and doing it in a very small, miniaturized sort of way, evidently very, very quickly. I don't know all the mechanics behind this, etc. But furthermore, to give you another indication of how fraudulent this was, in 2014, she reported, I suppose, out to her investors, again, private investors, that they had shown over $100 million in revenue. It turns out in 2014, she had approximately $100,000 in revenue. Whoops, I guess she forgot a couple of zeros here. Now, let me be clear, of course, there are many frauds committed by many people, and frankly, most of them are men. And I've discussed frauds, for example. I did a video about the Bernie Madoff fraud. I did a video about men blowing up in terms of I did something about LTCM in terms of long-term capital management, how they blew up, etc. But the point that we need to take from all this is the following. I'm going to give you, I think, some tips, some ideas that'll help you filter through some frauds, or at least get down to where you're going to find some better investable ideas. Let's try that. All right, number one, as I've said many, many times, I feel like I am a broken record here, but no one cares more about your money than you do. And with that corollary, you should be skeptical of all financial advice, including from this person, that you hear anywhere. And I'm going to give you a heuristic. I'm going to give you a rule of thumb. The slicker the proposal is, the more outstanding, the more well-spoken, the more professional the presentation seems to be, I would be that much more skeptical. I would be that much more careful. I would be that much more concerned, because inevitably so many people are swayed by expensive graphics, glossy brochures, well-spoken people, attractive people, etc. Again, there almost seems to be an inverse relationship between the more slick the product, the worse that it is, the more compelling it seems to be, the more skeptical you need to be. All right, 2, if you hear the words guarantee, specifically regarding a financial product, financial investment, etc., you need to immediately be very, very concerned. I've mentioned this before, but there are very, very few true guarantees in the investment world in any type of financial product. There's sort of a 1 to 10 risk scale, 1 being very, very minimal, basically 0 risk, 10 being maximum risk. Many times you will see videos put out, not by myself, but where different people are selling, if you will, different other types of products, services, etc. It seems to be especially common in the cryptocurrency space where they're talking about guarantees, where they're also, and I'm going to get on to the next one here, high returns, exceedingly doubling your money, or you can make thousands of % returns on your money, etc. When you're hearing about that, when you're hearing what I'm going to call above normal returns, I'm going to say a normal return being, let's say, 8 to 12% a year. If you're hearing anything beyond 8 to 12%, your skeptical radar needs to go way up. You need to be extremely concerned that, what are they selling here? What is this all about? Is this really make sense? Next, in it, be careful about personal anecdotes. Be careful where someone says, well, I did it, then you can too. Look, there is time, place, circumstances, there's risk tolerance, various things come into play here. Personal anecdotes are terrific, but especially when you hear about people who seemingly made money easily or quickly, again, be warned, be concerned, be cautious, be extremely skeptical. Certainly that is definitely not something that I've ever said about. There is no, unfortunately, at least that I've discovered, and man, have I been looking like a man looking for the fountain of youth. It probably doesn't exist, to be frank with you. Next, always visualize, always think about the downside. What's the worst case here? Don't let anyone tell you, no, that this can't go to 0. It'll always have value. Guess what? Nearly anything can go to 0 effectively. So always visualize the worst case scenario. This is one reason why I've mentioned so many times the importance of diversification. I can't guarantee you, nor can anyone guarantee you, a particular stock, a particular mutual fund, a particular crypto, gold, silver, whatever it might be. They could all, in theory, go to 0. Are you prepared for that? And I don't mean just psychologically prepared. It's one thing to say, yeah, I can handle it. I'm talking about financially prepared. If, for example, you have $10,000, as I've mentioned so many times, you do not, I emphasize, do not want to take 100% of your money and put it into one asset class, because there is that definite possibility it goes to 0. And when you're at 0, getting back to $10,000 can be a lot harder than if you invest $1,000 of your $10,000, you lose $1,000, at least you still have 9 and you have something to work from again. Starting from 0 is where you do not want to be. All right, lastly, whenever you hear terms like this is revolutionary, this is world changing, this is a new paradigm, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. Again, be careful, be cautious, be more than a little skeptical. I'm not saying that things don't change. Of course they change. However, 98% of the time, let's just say that, nothing really changes. Fundamentally, human beings certainly haven't changed in, let's see, about 5,000 years, I think we can agree on. All right, let's quickly summarize here. I'm going to include a link in the video description to an interview that Miss Holmes did less than 3 years ago, April 2015, with Jim Cramer. I highly encourage you to watch this video of this interview with Jim Cramer, where she was just sort of at the peak, where Jim Cramer, who, by the way, some of you may not know, he's a longtime business writer, analyst, so well credentialed. He gives speeches all the time, makes tens of $millions a year. What's he saying about Miss Holmes? She's a visionary. She's She's this next generation almost goddess as he's just going all over himself about her. That she's disrupting this incredible technology that she has. What I encourage you to think about is how easily it is to get seduced by this woman's story and how, for example, again, Jim Cramer keeps repeating how she's tied in with Walgreens. And again, the world-changing technology. How easily is it, men, that you too could be seduced by this? Finishing, I'm going to quote the great physicist, the world-class teacher, Richard Feynman. You must not fool yourself, and you are the easiest person to fool. Gentlemen, as always, hit the like button if you found that useful. Don't hit the subscribe button. I don't need any more subscribers. As always, John Galt out.